All right. Greetings, people. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected and everything is connected. Yes, this is the climate change video for the day. I will be back shortly after this video with a more politically minded video. I'm just trying to make sure that I'm streaming on Rockfin. I am trying to stream on Rockfin and YouTube every day. So if you guys want to watch me on Rockfin, you can. It's free to sign up. Please follow me there. Please create an account. It's free to create an account. And most of my videos are free right now. How's it going, guys? How are you? Good to see you. Kuro, Lexi, Rich Diana, what's going on? Donald McCarthy, what's going on? Donald says, I demand a singularity of doom where everything stops forever. Okay. It takes a little longer to get the stream started on Rockfin for whatever reason. Let me make sure that everything is still going correctly. I guess it is. I guess it is. It's hard for me to... I can't really do this before the stream starts, so I apologize. Here we go. All right. And we are now live on Rockfin. Okay. To all my Rockfin people, hello. To all my YouTubers, hello and greetings. Kuro Hike says you should watch the 4-Hour Work Week. It teaches you how to delegate all the responsibilities to third world personal assistants. Yeah. Sounds just like some rich and famous, you know, or rich and famous wannabe in the United States kind of stuff, guff. Yes, Grateful Dan, I saw that. Roger Hallam interviewed an IPCC scientist yesterday. Yes. I was just watching that this morning. It's good stuff. Kevin Chanholzer says, without climate change, BBN might not exist. Oh, of course I would exist. But yes, that was the impulse for starting this channel, was climate change for sure. Not the only impulse, but the main one. Anyways, let's get into it. Yes, please hit the like button, guys. Suzanne, how you doing? 59 watching, 26 likes. Please hit the like button. Wendy DeLee says, I like the partial separation, by way of 2 videos into mostly climate change video and mostly politics. Very good. If you're enjoying that, that's fine. I just as a matter of warning, the gloves are off in my mostly political videos. The gloves are going to be way more off than in my climate change videos. But we're going to keep it real about climate change right now. Let's get into it. Hurricane Eta. Once tropical storm, then hurricane, then tropical storm, then Hurricane Eta strengthens into a hurricane, again, off southwest coast of Florida. Oh, I'm not, actually, give me 1 second, guys. Give me 1 second. Eta, this is from this morning. Eta intensified into a hurricane. in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico Wednesday morning, but it is expected to be on a weakening trend as it approaches landfall on Florida's western Gulf Coast on Thursday. A tropical storm warning and a hurricane watch are now in effect for a portion of Florida's western Gulf Coast. Eta is expected to bring heavy rainfall, gusty winds, storm surge, and isolated tornadoes to portions of the Florida Peninsula. Below is the latest on what to expect. So this is, it's kind of just zigzagging all over the Gulf and or Caribbean, however you like to say it. Tropical storm warning has been issued for a part of the west coast of Florida from Bonita Beach north to Suwannee River, including Tampa, St. Petersburg, Sarasota, and Fort Myers, as well as for the dry Tortugas west of the lower Florida Keys. So it did a drive-by, and then now it's going to come back in for something of a direct hit. I don't know if you guys are seeing any of this or none of this. Are any of my buttons working? Hold on one second. Oh, I guess not. Yay. Hold on. Nope, none of my buttons are working. Awesome. This is great, guys. Well, the buttons are working on my Rockfin view, thing. Hold on one second, guys. Maybe I can make these things work. Make buttons work again. Ah, crap. Hold on. So sorry. It just likes to do that. Bros. Let's see. Okay, here we go. Let's get into this. You guys aren't seeing anything on YouTube, and I apologize. Now you should be seeing something. Storm surge watch has also been issued for the Florida West Coast from Bonita Beach to the Steinhatchee River, including Tampa Bay and Charlotte Harbor. This means there's potential for inundation from the Gulf within the next 48 hours. All right. More news on the destruction of Eta from The Guardian. This is from today. Everything's buried in mud. Hurricane Eta's devastating blow to Honduras. Flooding left thousands trapped for days without food or water, and death toll may never be known. Across a sea of putrid mud, a meter or so deep, Marvin Argueta pointed to the remnants of what a week ago was his home on the banks of the Jamelicon River. He had lost everything, but he still considers himself lucky. If we wouldn't have gotten out in time, we all would have died, said Argueta, 22, who along with his wife and 4 children abandoned their house when the flood waters reached waist height in the middle of the night. A friend of mine lost his entire family. Heartbreaking. Argueta and his family are among hundreds of thousands in Honduras who lost everything they own in floods caused by Hurricane Eta. Massive damage from the storm that is still going. Is anybody paying attention to this? Comfortable Americans, are you all paying attention to this? Or is this like, oh, wow, oh, interesting. Wow. This is, your present, not your future, but your present on climate change. When we first came back to see our home, we cried because everything was buried in mud, said Argueta, who recently lost his job in construction and is now living underneath a nearby bridge with about 100 other families. Wow. This is insane. People lost their homes, and now this is where they are living. In Guatemala, scores of people are feared dead after rain tore off the side of a mountain. burying the village of Cueja, or Queja, I don't know. As the floodwaters recede in Honduras, the storm's full toll there is starting to emerge. Although the official death count remains low, people are returning to what's left of their homes to find Dantesque scenes of human and animal remains half buried in mud, and there are countless others whose loved ones have disappeared. A lot of people feel like if it doesn't affect them, it's not happening, right? Climate change isn't affecting you right now at this moment. It's not happening. But climate change is happening to people all over the planet all the time. And there's just a succession of extreme weather events and disasters that impact people enormously. Very sad indeed, and that storm is still going. Let's move on to a tweet from Zach Labe. As we progress into the boreal winter, long-term declining trends in sea ice are mostly found in the outer regions of the Arctic Ocean. The remaining area becomes ice-covered. Just a little graph there from Zach Labe. And a very good reply to this tweet. Don't worry about ice melting seas, rising temperatures, getting hotter. Just keep popping out them babies, believing that this is all bullshit. Climate change is not caused by humans. And you and yours will be just fine as long as you find another planet to live on. It's a reply from Maggie Smith. Good tweet from Go Green. Biden addressing Joe Biden. Biden, think again, spending billions on carbon capture that will only encourage more fossil fuels. Referencing a Stanford study that cast doubt on carbon capture, and carbon capture can increase air pollution and are not efficient at reducing carbon in the atmosphere. Maybe we will briefly look at this. Right, so, the Biden campaign, as it stands at the moment on November 11th, 2020, seeking, to pour a bunch of money into green technology or techno-fixing our way out of the problem, and one of those fixes is carbon capture. This is from a year ago, though. Current approaches to carbon capture can increase air pollution and are not efficient at reducing carbon in the atmosphere, according to research from Mark Z. Jacobson. He suggests that carbon capture technologies can cause more harm than good. It's almost like we should just stop putting carbon in the air. And it's almost like we should start planting trees and rewilding the planet. It's almost like we should start doing that, right? Immediately, if not sooner. Even if you have 100% capture from the capture equipment, it is still worse from a social cost perspective than replacing a coal or gas plant with a wind farm, because carbon capture never reduces air pollution and always has a capture equipment cost. The cost. So do those wind farms, by the way. So a little bit, we'll just overlook the fact that he didn't mention the cost of the wind farm or the windmills or the solar panels, leaving that completely out of the equation, because the equation does include cost. Wind replacing fossil fuels always reduces air pollution and never has a capture equipment cost. Oh, okay. We're going to say false to that one. But, whatever. Moving on. But certainly the capturing of the carbon, if you don't stop putting the pollution in the air, is, we might want to call it a fool's errand. And they get into the end focusing on renewables, 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 renewables. Well, how about degrowth, degrowth, degrowth? How about lessening the need for the needs or all the things that we need, that we think we need? All the things we think we need. And, you know, we must continue having and buying and doing and selling and making and blah, blah, blah. Article from Curbed. California's ban on gas cars could go nationwide, but still doesn't go far enough. Let's find out why. In September, California Governor Gavin Newsom announced he was banning the sale of internal combustion engine passenger vehicles after 2035, a command that was met with surprise and a great deal of skepticism. And in the midst of a back and forth with the federal government about raking forest floors, it was difficult not to see it as yet another fight for the governor to pick with the president. But now as Joe Biden heads to the White House, or tries, saying he wants to retool the U.S. auto industry, such a proposal is likely to be coming to other states too, and possibly much sooner than Americans think. Guys, give me 1 second. I'm going to have to take a 3-second break. All right? All right, sorry about that. My apologies. Getting back to this article, Newsom's executive order would require that 100% of in-state sales of new passenger cars and trucks are zero emission by 2035 in order to meet ambitious climate goals, all of which have deadlines that arrive long after he's left office. That will put California, often called the world's 5th largest economy, in line with dozens of countries that have already committed to similar goals, but it's by far the most progressive proposal for any American state. Though, because this is California, even floating that idea publicly can quickly shape policy nationwide. Since 1970, as part of efforts to reduce air pollution, California has been granted permission by the federal government to set its own vehicle emission standards that are more aggressive than the federal ones. The Trump administration tried repeatedly to take that autonomy away, but California standards have since been adopted by 14 states. Plus the District of Columbia, and about a third of the vehicles on U.S. roads have been manufactured to these cleaner standards. The sheer size of its market gives it outsized power with automakers. Even if its power in this case is mostly rhetorical. At least 1 in 5 cars on U.S. roads needs to be electric by 2030. That's not a lot. But way more than it is now. To hit climate benchmarks, says Britta Gross, managing director of the mobility practice at the Rocky Mountain Institute, which is why setting nationwide milestones that take California standards a step further, rather than treating them as the avant-garde, will be key. The car makers, the bus makers, the truck makers, and even the infrastructure producers need confidence that the market will demand these investments, she says. There have to be fuel efficiency targets with how much of an increase we want to see year over year, and the higher those targets, the better electric vehicles start to look. As it's laid out in Biden's new transition site, the Build Back Better plan, with the goal of achieving a net zero economy by 2050, aims to reorganize the American auto industry around electric vehicle manufacturing, including funding investments in battery technology and electric vehicle charging stations. It's listed under climate change as one of the administration's top priorities, along with a comprehensive strategy to invest in transit In addition, Biden has promoted a new Cash for Clunkers program, a bit like the one the Obama administration offered that would incentivize trading in an internal combustion vehicle for a zero-emission one, as outlined in the Clean Cars for America proposal. It sounds like a lot of manufacturing has to go on in order for this to happen. That's good for the oligarchs, right? And, you know, I'm sure on some level good for the planet, but also good for the oligarchs, and on other levels bad for the planet, right? If you think about the actual cost to the environment of producing these cars and these batteries, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I know, forgive me for being negative. Trying to wean the U.S. off of SUVs and trucks in particular will be a real challenge. How about weaning people off of cars, period? The end of story, the end. Why not that? Why isn't there any discussion in all of this, you know, Green New Dealism? Why is there no discussion about people, you know, maybe outlawing the sales of cars, period, or maybe people shouldn't have their own personal vehicles? Maybe there should be a limit to personal vehicles? Anybody talking about that? No, they are not. And we need to do all of that very, very soon. This is keeping industrial civilization going as we know it, and that's all people want. They don't want their lives to change. They don't want to make any radical changes in their own lives. They don't want to be uncomfortable. They don't want anything to shift radically. They just want to buy a new car and just keep going on as usual. Business as usual. Biden's plan sounds okay-ish, but a 2035 deadline to phase out fossil fuel car sales really isn't soon enough, according to Costa Samaras, Associate Professor of Civil and Environmental Engineering at Carnegie Mellon University and co-author of a new paper on decarbonizing the U.S. vehicle fleet. The average American car on the road is 12 years old, meaning half of the cars we are driving are older than that. So if we're still buying gasoline-powered engines until 2035, that means a lot of them will be on the roads well into the 2050s. Excellent point. That is simply too leisurely a pace, he says. That's like saying I'm going to start my exercise regimen on January 1st. Just as soon as the holidays are over, I promise to get in shape. New cars alone won't get us where we need to be. We need to significantly reduce the amount of the amount Americans drive. Boom, ding, boom. We need so much transit and so much biking and so much walking, way more than your wildest dreams, he says. Ding. I'm going to read that again. We need so much transit and so much biking and so much walking, way more than your wildest dreams. So like way less driving and way more of everything else. And that probably points to something more like abolishing the privately owned car. And then after that, we also have to electrify millions of vehicles. Right. Samaras points to a single paragraph far down in Newsom's executive order that mentions how the state's transportation department will invest in non-car infrastructure. There's one section where they talk about Caltrans and other agencies reorienting, toward other modes of travel, he says. I would like to see the dollar values behind those. Even as states' elected leaders have made climate pledges that cannot accommodate any increases in driving, California, like most other states, is still spending billions of dollars each year on widening and building new freeways. Switching to electric vehicles won't change that, says Chanel Fletcher, Executive Director of Climate Plan, which is part of Transportation Equity Coalition in California. She supports Newsom's proposal, but says it's not paired with additional policies to support communities, disproportionately brown and black, that have been hurt by decades of car-centric development. They will continue to be harmed. This is where we need to have these conversations so we don't replicate the mistakes of the past, she says. If we're upholding the need for highways without thinking about these communities, you're doing something good for the climate, but continuing to traumatize them. And if you're still widening highways, are you doing that with electric power? Are you doing that with zero emissions? No, you're not. You're not. I'm sorry, but you're not. You're not including all the emissions from all of this. Construction, destruction, construction, Construction is destruction. Remember that? Do you remember? We have 114 watching, 55 likes. Please like up the video. And if you are new, you know what to do. Yeah. Again, focusing on renewables and constructing things and making things and building things. And no talk about degrowth, no talk about taking down our energy consumption, no talk about living in, much more in harmony with the planet and not living as wild-eyed consumers. Quickly, before the end of the show, I'm running out of time, guys. We're going to look at a few other stories. This one from Kenya and Tanzania, from The Guardian. Fears for 1 million livelihoods, or lives, I don't know, in Kenya and Tanzania, I guess livelihoods, as Mara River fish die out. Water biodiversity is on the brink. The dire consequences for the region known for the zebra and wildebeest migration, says World Wildlife Fund. Fish are being driven to extinction in the Mara River basin, putting the livelihoods of more than 1 million people in Kenya and Tanzania in jeopardy, according to World Wildlife Fund. A report by the Wildlife NGO details how farming, deforestation, mining, illegal fishing, and invasive species could sound a death knell for the Trans-Boundary River. The first stock take of biodiversity in the river basin identified 473 native freshwater species, including 4 mammals, 88 waterbirds, 126 freshwater associated birds, 4 reptiles, 20 amphibians, 40 fishes, 50 invertebrate species, and 141 vascular plants. At least 10 species, equivalent to 2% of total species, are on the International Union for Conservation of Nature list of threatened species. 3. The Ningu singida and Victoria tilapia are critically endangered, threatened by the introduction of non-native fish such as the Nile perch. The gray-crowned crane, Madagascar pond heron, and the killifish, are endangered, while the shoebill and some crab and freshwater mussel species are listed as vulnerable. However, the report is expected to have underestimated the biodiversity of the area. Oopsie. With some species along the 395-kilometer-long river yet to be described. Due to the dearth of information, much is still unknown. Several aquatic species have not been seen for many years and may be extinct before they have been studied or described to the rest of the world. And that, my friends, is that. Signs of more destruction, extinction, at the hands of the mighty humans. I'm sorry to say. And this news goes on and on and on. It never stops. That about wraps up this climate change video, guys. Thank you so much for your eyes, your ears, and your conscience. I'm going to be back in a few minutes with some political news. Please stay tuned and come on back. Until next time, peace.